For as long as I could remember, I'd been the quiet girl in the back of the class. The kind of person teachers forgot to call on unless they were forced to, and classmates forgot existed unless they needed a homework answer. My name was Emily Carter, and I had perfected the art of blending into the background. I wasn't ugly, but I wasn't stunning. I wasn't brilliant, but I wasn't failing either. I lived in the in-between, safe, unnoticed, forgettable. My high school was one of those places where popularity wasn't just about being good-looking. It was about being loud, confident, magnetic, like gravity in a cheerleader's uniform or a quarterback's jacket. I didn't have any of those qualities. My hair was plain brown, my clothes were practical, and my voice barely carried across a table, let alone a crowded hallway. When I woke up the next morning, my phone was buzzing nonstop. At first, I thought it was Amber's friends texting in their group chat again. She'd sometimes leave her phone in my room by accident. But when I reached over and saw my own screen lit up, my stomach dropped. 42 missed notifications. Some were from numbers I didn't even recognize. Others were social media alerts, Instagram, Facebook, even Snapchat, which I barely used. My first thought was that something terrible had happened. Then I saw the headline. Local teen rescues girl from late night attack near train bridge. And there was my face, caught mid-blink in a blurry photo someone had taken while I was talking to the police. I looked awkward and startled. My hoodie hanging loosely around me, my hair a mess from the night air. But there I was. The article didn't say much, just the basics. My name, my school, the fact that I had bravely intervened to help Lily before the attacker could harm her further. The police were still looking for the man, but Lily was safe. My first reaction was shock. My second was fear. I didn't want strangers knowing my name, my face. But by the time I got to school, it was clear that anonymity wasn't an option anymore. It started in the parking lot. A girl I'd never spoken to before stopped me as I got out of my mom's car. "Oh my God, you're Emily, right? You're the girl from the news." Before I could answer, she was already calling her friends over. "She's the one who saved that girl. She's a hero." I muttered something about just being in the right place at the right time, but it didn't matter. By the time I made it inside, people were pointing, whispering, smiling at me like I was some kind of celebrity. In homeroom, Mr. Hines paused while taking attendance. "Emily Carter," he said slowly, looking up with a faint smile. "Glad you're safe. And well done." I mumbled a thank you, my face hot. It was overwhelming. For years, I'd been the shadow in the back row, the person no one noticed. And now, every head turned when I walked into a room. People I hadn't spoken to since elementary school were sending me friend requests. My Instagram follower count doubled before lunch. Even Amber noticed. At first, I thought she'd be annoyed. She didn't love sharing the spotlight. But when we crossed paths in the hallway, she actually smiled. "Not bad, little sis," she said. "Guess you're famous now." It felt surreal. For the first time, I wasn't invisible. By the end of the week, a local news crew wanted to interview me. The reporter was warm and friendly, asking me to walk them through what happened. I tried to sound brave without sounding like I was bragging. Still, the way she framed it, calling me courageous, saying I'd changed a life, made me feel like maybe, for once, I really was someone worth noticing. But attention is a tricky thing. It didn't take long for the first whispers to start. "She's milking it," I overheard one girl in the cafeteria say. Like, okay, she helped, but she's acting like she's some superhero. She probably staged it. Another voice chimed in. "You know how people do that for clout?" The word stung. I wanted to yell that I hadn't asked for any of this, that I'd just been walking, that I'd barely slept since that night because I kept hearing Lily's screams in my head. But I didn't say anything. That's the thing about being quiet your whole life. When people talk about you, you don't always know how to defend yourself. Still, there were moments that made me feel like maybe the whispers didn't matter. One afternoon, Lily's mom called my house. She told me her daughter was still shaken, but healing, and that she wouldn't stop talking about me, How I'd come out of nowhere and made the attacker run. She says you saved her life, her mom said softly. And as her mother, I believe it too. I hung up the phone and sat there, my chest tight. For all the gossip, for all the weird new attention, maybe that was the only thing that mattered. Then came the Instagram message. It was from someone I didn't follow. The profile picture a black square. The message was short, but it made my blood run cold. You should have stayed out of it. I stared at the screen, my fingers numb. I didn't know who it was, but I had a sinking feeling this wasn't the kind of attention I wanted. And honestly, most days I didn't mind. Being invisible meant you didn't have to deal with drama. Nobody spread rumors about you. Nobody humiliated you in the cafeteria. You could just exist. But there was another side to it, one that gnawed at me on nights when the world went quiet. The loneliness. The aching knowledge that if I suddenly stopped showing up to school, it might take a week for someone to even notice. Even at home, things weren't much different. Mom worked double shifts at the diner, and Dad had left when I was 6. My older sister, Amber, was the golden child, captain of the soccer team, dating the most popular guy in school. She was everything I wasn't. Amber didn't mean to make me feel small, but she did. Every compliment she got was a reminder of the silence I received. Every time Mom bragged about her to neighbors, I faded further into the background. One Friday afternoon, as I sat in the library waiting for the final bell, I overheard a group of girls talking about a party at Jason Miller's house. Jason was the kind of guy who could smile at a teacher after skipping an entire week of homework and still get an A. He threw parties every few months that everyone talked about for weeks afterward. Are you going? One of them asked. Of course, another replied. Literally everyone is. Even the freshmen are trying to get in. I didn't even consider going. People like me didn't belong at parties like that. I'd probably end up standing alone in the kitchen pretending to text someone until I could leave without being noticed. But that night, something strange happened. For once, I couldn't focus on the book I was reading. I felt restless. Like there was a hum in the air that I couldn't shut out. By midnight, I was still wide awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. Around 12:30, I decided to go for a walk. It wasn't unusual for me. I liked the quiet streets at night, the way the world felt like it belonged only to me. I slipped on my hoodie, shoved my phone into my pocket, and stepped out into the cool spring air. The streets were still, the kind of stillness you only get in small towns after dark. Street lamps glowed a dull amber, casting long shadows on the pavement. I walked without a destination, letting my thoughts drift. That's when I heard it, a muffled cry. I froze. At first, I thought I'd imagined it. But then I heard it again, louder this time, followed by a sharp, panicked voice. It was coming from somewhere near the old train bridge about 2 blocks away. Every rational part of me said to go home, to call someone else, to not get involved. But something in my chest pulled me forward. My footsteps quickened, my heart pounding. When I reached the bridge, I saw them, 2 figures struggling in the dim light. One was a man in a dark hoodie, his hands gripping the arms of a girl who couldn't have been more than my age. She was kicking, her voice hoarse from screaming. Hey! I shouted before I could think. My voice cracked, but it was enough to make him freeze. For a split second, we locked eyes. Then he shoved the girl hard to the ground and bolted into the shadows. I rushed forward, kneeling beside her. Are you okay? She was trembling, her breath shallow. I think so, she stammered. I helped her to her feet, my hands shaking as badly as hers. That's when I saw it, a smear of blood on her cheek where she'd been hit. We need to get you somewhere safe, I said, pulling out my phone to call 911. The whole time we waited for the police, she clung to me like I was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. I didn't know her name, but in that moment, I felt more important than I ever had in my entire life. By the time the flashing red and blue lights lit up the street, my hoodie was damp from her tears. I gave my statement to the officers, my voice trembling but steady enough to describe what happened. They took the girl, her name was Lily, to the hospital for evaluation. Before she left, she looked at me with tear-stained eyes and whispered, "You saved me." The words hit me like a wave. No one had ever said anything like that to me before. When I got home that night, I lay in bed replaying everything in my head. I didn't know it yet, but that single night, the night I almost didn't go for a walk, was going to change my life forever. The message haunted me. I kept reading it over and over, each time imagining a different voice behind it. Sometimes it was the attacker himself, angry I'd interfered. Other times it was someone from school, hiding behind anonymity just to scare me. Either way, the effect was the same, a cold knot forming in my stomach. I told myself it was probably nothing. People say awful things online all the time. But I still locked my bedroom window that night for the first time in years, double-checking it before I turned off the light. For the next few days, I tried to ignore it. School was still a whirlwind. Teachers mentioned my bravery in class. People waved in the hallways. My phone pinged constantly with new followers. But underneath it all, I felt like I was carrying around a secret no one else could see, a shadow that trailed me everywhere I went. One afternoon, as I walked home, I had that feeling again. The one where the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, like you're being watched. I glanced over my shoulder, but the sidewalk behind me was empty. I quickened my pace anyway. When I reached my house, I nearly jumped out of my skin. There was a folded piece of paper stuck in our front gate. I unfolded it with shaking hands. "You got lucky once. Next time, you won't." No name. No handwriting I recognized. Just block letters in black ink. That night, I couldn't keep it to myself any longer. I told Amber. She frowned, her usual confidence faltering. "Emily, that's creepy. You should tell Mom." But Mom was already stressed with work, and I hated the idea of adding to her worries. "I don't want to freak her out," I said. "It's probably just some idiot trying to scare me." Amber didn't look convinced. She took the note from me and stuffed it into her backpack. "Fine. But if anything else happens, we're telling her." No arguments. For a few days, things seemed to quiet down. Lily had started going back to school, though she still looked pale and tense in the hallways. Whenever we passed each other, she'd give me a small smile. It was nice, having that unspoken bond. Then, one Saturday evening, my phone buzzed with a new text. No name, just a random number. "Nice hoodie. Looks even better when you wear it walking home from the library." My blood ran cold. I had been at the library that afternoon, and I had been wearing my favorite gray hoodie, the same one from the night of the rescue. I dropped my phone on the bed and backed away from it like it was something poisonous. This wasn't just some online troll. Whoever this was, they were watching me. I finally told Mom everything. She went pale, then furious, pacing the kitchen, her voice sharp. "That's it. We're calling the police. Tonight." The officer who came to our house was polite, but not exactly reassuring. "These kinds of things can be hard to trace," he said, jotting notes on a clipboard. "But keep a record of every message, every note. Don't delete anything. And don't walk anywhere alone, okay?" I nodded, but inside I was boiling. I hadn't asked for any of this, the attention, the headlines, the so-called hero label. And now, the very thing people were praising me for might be the reason I was in danger. By Monday, the whispers at school had changed tone. People weren't just talking about me being a hero anymore, they were speculating about the threats. Someone had overheard Amber telling her best friend, and now it was spreading. "She's probably making it up for more attention," a guy at the lunch table next to mine said. "No, my cousin's friend's mom works with the police," another girl chimed in. "It's real. They think it's the guy she scared off that night." The worst part was, I didn't know which possibility scared me more. That night, I got another message. "You think you're special now, but I know who you really are." I didn't sleep at all. The next morning, I dragged myself through school like a ghost. My eyes burned from lack of sleep, and every sound seemed too loud, every shadow too long. By lunch, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers, or at least a reminder that I wasn't completely losing my mind. So I found Lily. She was sitting alone at the edge of the cafeteria, picking at her salad. Her blonde hair hung in a curtain around her face, but when she saw me, she sat up a little straighter. "Hey," I said, sliding into the seat across from her. Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Hey, you look tired." "That's one word for it," I muttered. Then I leaned in, lowering my voice. "Lily, has anyone been bothering you since that night?" Her fork stilled. She didn't answer right away, and for a second, I thought she was going to say no. But then her shoulders dropped. "I've been getting messages too," she whispered. "I just didn't want to tell anyone." I stared at her. "Why wouldn't you?" "Because my mom would freak out, and she's already watching me like a hawk." And she hesitated, biting her lip. "Because they're not just threatening me. They're asking questions. About you." The words felt like ice water pouring down my spine. "About me? What kind of questions?" She glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "Like, what you're like at school. If you have a boyfriend. Where you live. Stuff that. Stuff they could just Google if they wanted." I finished for her, my voice shaking. Lily's expression said she agreed, but she didn't say it out loud. We sat in silence for a moment before she spoke again. "There's something else I didn't tell the police that night." My stomach twisted. "What?" She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. "I knew him. The guy who grabbed me. Not well, but I'd seen him before. At the gas station near my house. He'd talk to me sometimes. Harmless stuff at first. But then, the week before it happened, he started asking weird questions. Like if I ever walked places alone. What time I usually got home from school." I leaned forward. "Why didn't you say anything?" Her voice cracked. "Because I thought I was overreacting. And then, after it happened, I was so scared they'd think it was my fault. That I'd somehow led him on." My chest ached. I wanted to be angry with her for not telling me, for not telling anyone, but I couldn't. I knew exactly what that kind of fear felt like. "Lily," I said softly, "this isn't your fault." "None of it." Her eyes shimmered. "Then why is he still out there? And why is he watching you now?" That question sat heavy between us. That afternoon, I decided I wasn't going to just sit and wait for the next message. I started writing everything down, every time I saw someone suspicious, every message, every detail I could remember from that night. My notebook became a record, part journal, part case file. One night, while flipping back through my notes, I noticed something strange. The first threatening message I got, the one that said, "You should have stayed out of it," came only a few hours after my first news interview aired. That meant whoever it was had seen my face on TV almost immediately. It also meant they were close enough to act fast. The next few days were a blur of half-slept nights and constant paranoia. I'd catch glimpses of a dark hoodie in crowds, but every time I turned to look, it was gone. Then, one rainy Thursday, as I was leaving the library, I spotted someone leaning against the bike rack near the street. The hood was up, the face shadowed, but something about the posture made my chest seize. I froze. They didn't move, didn't even look at me. But I knew. I knew. My hand tightened around my phone, but I didn't call the police. I just walked, fast but steady, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. When I reached the corner and dared to glance back, the space by the bike rack was empty. By the weekend, I was done living in fear. Every creak in the house, every shadow outside my window, every buzz from my phone, it all felt like a trap waiting to spring. I kept replaying Lily's words in my head. "Why is he watching you now?" I didn't have an answer, but I was going to find one. On Saturday night, Amber had gone to a party, Mom was working late, and I was home alone. I should have been terrified. But instead, I felt a strange sense of calm, as if some part of me knew that the only way this was going to end was if I stopped running. It was around 9:15 when I saw the movement. I was sitting in the living room, half watching TV, when something shifted in the corner of my eye just outside the front window. My pulse kicked up instantly. Slowly, I stood, every instinct telling me to stay hidden. But instead, I walked to the door and opened it. The street was quiet. Too quiet. And then, from the shadows of the maple tree in our yard, a figure stepped forward. The hoodie. The same one from that night. "You're not supposed to be here," I said, my voice trembling. The figure chuckled, low and cold. "Neither were you that night at the bridge." My throat tightened. "Who are you?" He took another step into the light, and for the first time, I saw his face. It wasn't a stranger. It was Tyler. Tyler Evans. Amber's boyfriend. My knees almost gave out. "What?" He smirked like this was all some sick joke. "Small town, everybody's connected." That night, Lily wasn't supposed to be alone. She was supposed to be with me. The world tilted sideways. You planned that?" "Planned?" He laughed. "No. I just wanted to scare her. Show her she couldn't just ignore me after everything I did for her." His eyes darkened. "And then you showed up. You ruined it. Made me look like a psycho on the run. Now I can't even go near her without people looking at me like I'm some monster." "That's because you are," I said before I could stop myself. His smirk vanished. "You should have kept your head down, just like you always did in school. But no. You had to be the hero. Now everyone loves you." He took a step closer, his voice dropping. "But I know you're nothing special. And I can make you disappear just as fast as you showed up." I stumbled back into the doorway, my hand fumbling for my phone. "The police already know about the threats. They'll know it's you." Tyler's gaze flickered, just for a second, but it was enough. I hit record on my phone and held it up between us. "Say that again," I said, forcing my voice steady. His jaw tightened. He didn't speak. And then, as if the universe had been holding its breath, headlights turned the corner. Mom's car. She pulled into the driveway, and Tyler bolted into the dark before she even stepped out. The police came within 15 minutes. I showed them the recording. It wasn't a full confession, but it was enough. Combined with Lily's statement, they arrested Tyler 2 days later. He's facing charges now: assault, harassment, stalking. Lily cried when I told her. She said she'd felt like a prisoner in her own skin since that night, and now, for the first time, she could breathe. As for me, the attention didn't disappear right away. People still talked. Some treated me like the same hero they had when this all started. Others whispered that I'd brought drama into the school. But I didn't care anymore. Because I knew the truth about myself now. I wasn't just the quiet girl in the back of the class. I wasn't invisible. And I didn't have to be loud or popular or perfect to matter. That night at the bridge changed Lily's life. It changed mine too. And maybe, just maybe, it saved me from staying in the shadows forever.